Thank you very much for that. Mama Wesizwe. To all the guests, I greet you, Sanbona. My name is Ndumiso Ngidi. Um, yeah, it is such an honor to be standing in front of you today. Um, this doesn't usually happen for someone like me, someone from Guamashu, a township back in Durban in KZN. So this is really an honor. I'm nervous as hell, but but there's also God by my side. Um, yeah, 10 minutes. I've been given 10 minutes. There's just so much to say in 10 minutes, so I hope I'll keep time. Thank God I'm not a radio speaker. Yeah, so my story is a very complicated one. Um, when I was 13 months old, I lost my mother. She died. She was taking a shower on a Sunday morning preparing for church, and she fell in the shower, and my brother found her in the shower, and she never woke up. I was 13 months old, so I have no memory of my mom except for a picture that we took together when I was 9 months. That's as far as I know I've once had a mother. And so as things happen, I was raised by my father and my two brothers at the time, and then my father was in the process of being remarried, and out of that came my half sister, my little sister. But 7 years after my mother died, my father died of AIDS. So I'm also an AIDS orphan standing in front of you. Yeah, I was 7 years old. My sister was 3 years old. The oldest amongst us was my brother, who was 13 at the time, and he had to become the man of the house. My father died around exam time. It was October when he died, and as so it happens that around that time my brothers were also writing exams, and I was hoping this would not happen. I'm such a mess. um, yeah, my brothers went to study with their friends, and we had a relative over looking after me and my sister. This was a few days after my father died, and I was sleeping, and I woke up that night to this man on top of me, um, telling me it's gonna be okay. Shh, don't worry, kuzolunga. And yeah, that was that. That's how I also became a rape victim. I know we are called survivors because we didn't die, we survived. But yeah, so much happened after that. I grew up struggling with depression. Um, I grew up struggling with self acceptance, self love. I hated myself. Yeah, there were so many times I took a bath and I hope that I would leave my skin because I couldn't stand to even look myself in the mirror. I felt worthless. And the worst part is, a few days after that incident, thank you. A few days after that incident, we lost our home, our father's house. I still don't know how, but it was sold, and we were told new people are moving in, and so we had to leave. So we moved to my grandfather's house, and that's how we lost our home. And we started being at the mercy of relatives and neighbors. And the only reason we lived at our grandfather's house was because there was nobody there. This was at the time when AIDS was really ravishing families, and So we were asked if we could occupy that house. And because the pressure became too much on my brother, my oldest brother, he had to drop out of school. So he didn't complete his matric. And I had to move, and my sister had to move, and my other brother had to move. So we were separated. It was just before Christmas, December that year, my father died. And that was the last time I had a family. I moved to Emlazi with my otherwise good family because they raised me. Amongst the verbal abuse that I would take, being called a burden, being called a church mouse, being told I would never amount to anything, I'm grateful they raised me and I got to have an education. 13 years after my father died, my brother also died of AIDS. He had become a drug addict, and I guess the pressures of life, depression had become too much, and he surrendered to what young people would surrender to in those circumstances. And in all of that, there's been this permanent sense of anger. I was angry at my parents, angry at my siblings, angry at myself. I started to become very violent towards myself, self-hate, you name it. But that doesn't define who I am. Standing in front of you might be an orphan, an AIDS orphan, a rape survivor, but I'm also a beautiful man. And thank God for God, because it took me knowing God to understand who I was. And I started this very long process of healing, trying to run away from the grieving that had taken so many years. It only took my sister. I remember this was after my brother died, and I went into a depressive state. I was at varsity at the time, and so I was living now. I went from psychologist to psychiatrist, and I was living on antidepressants, and I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares, so they put me on sleeping tablets. For a whole month, I couldn't even leave the house or look myself in the mirror. I stayed in my room. I didn't want to eat. I was a walking skeleton, basically. And I guess my sister had had enough, and she came to me with a copied CD of Kirk Franklin from an album called The Fight of My Life. And she said, we've been through a lot, and I won't tell you much. Just please listen to this song, track number 5 on this CD. The song was Help Me Believe. And in that song, I started connecting with this God I had been denying all along. I had been angry at. The song said, help me believe that what I'm going through is only a test, something like that. That you can see what I cannot see, and that what I'm seeing right now is not the end of my life. And that was my prayer that day, for God to help me believe. And that saved me, because in a long time I started looking myself in the mirror and seeing that I have potential, that I can be somebody. And that for me was the start of self-acceptance, that I had been through certain things in my life, but my life can be better. And all of that was within me. I could survive. I could escape. I started falling in love with this person, this guy that I was seeing in the mirror. And I realized that self-love is resistance. Self-love is defying the odds, and it's saying, looking at challenges in the face and saying, you can come, but you will not end me. And so I started talking about myself and my life. And I was amazed and overwhelmed at the number of young people, boys and girls, who came to say, actually, I'm also a survivor. of sexual violence. I also saw my parents die. And now, njengoba dusho mama ukuthi talking has saved many lives. It's hard, but I do it now because I understand the therapy behind talking, that you're not the only one, and that your life matters. I know my life matters now. I believe that more than anything. I've worked so hard to erase all these painful memories, all these words that were thrown at me. I don't believe them anymore. I just think I'm fabulous. And so now I do a lot of projects back in my community, in the Ink area, in Ndumiso Ngidi, working with young people, particularly young people who are orphans, trying to not only help them talk and help them heal through whatever it is they're going through, but to also find their meaning in life and their purpose. I don't want to just motivate them, I want to inspire them, because I can see that they can be great. I know I'm great because of my challenges. I learned from them, and they've made me who I am today. And that's always what I always tell my mentees. And so I try every year to at least find about 10 to 20 young people that I could spend the whole year with in schools in my community, to reach out to say, no, you're not the only one. There is so much more beyond what you see, and your life is worth something. And I'm honestly awed and thankful for such organizations and such gatherings and meetings, because through your contribution, someone like me can live to see another day. Someone who once had suicidal thoughts, someone who's once tried to kill themselves, a young girl who just discovered they are HIV positive, a young man who's just survived a rape incident, that they can matter and that they can get an education and be something. I'm also happy that such foundations are also leaders in reassuring young people and helping young people find their voice, to speak and not be spoken to. Because that's another mistake we tend to make, assuming that young people are a problem that needs to be addressed, when young people are the addressers of problems. So we do matter. And I'm grateful that this is happening. And with that, thank you very much.